Hello to all. Today my presentation is about quantitative chemical analysis in food. The topic for this presentation is daily intake of vitamin C nitrate and nitrite from foods and beverages in Fiji. Some of the keywords that you might come across through this presentation is instrumental analysis, quantitative chemistry, chemical analysis in food, vitamin C, nitrate, nitrite, epidemiologic investigation, dietary intake assessment, food frequency questionnaire, which will be known as FFQ, nitrates and nitrite database, and the food composition table. Our survival is dependent on our ability to maintain good health. Vitamins and minerals aid in the maintenance of a healthy diet in humans. The three enlates that were studied for this research was vitamin C, nitrate, nitrite from the 9 different metrics, which included meat and animal products, fruits, vegetables, beverages, grains, and byproducts, seafood, dairy products, confectionaries, herbs, spices, and sauce, and lastly, cooked or fast food meals. Most of us are aware that eating a lot of meat and hot dogs is unhealthy due to the high amount of fat, salts, and preservative contents. However, few individuals are aware of how hazardous certain chemicals or certain meals can be. Nitrates are found in a lot of cooked meat on grocery shelves, and these nitrates are a type of chemical preservatives that are used in foods such as bacon and lunch meats to keep the color and prevent germs from growing. Nitrates is an important component of food and water in moderate amount. Normally, microorganisms in the saliva and the back of the tongue converts these nitrates to nitrites. While nitrates are thought to be harmful because they can be transformed into carcinogenic components such as nitroamine chemicals, and vitamin C, also known as ascorbic acid, has been shown in studies to prevent the interaction of nitrates and amines or amines, and it competes with the amines and amides for nitrate, thus preventing the production of these carcinogenic compounds. Then most green leafy vegetables contain high amounts of nitrates, and according to the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, nearly 80% of the dietary nitrates are derived from vegetable consumption, while nitrates include vegetables, fruit, and processed food. The World Health Organization, in its guideline to drinking water, states that most of the important sources of dietary nitrates and nitrates are derived from vegetables and from the meat in a diet, which are used as additives to cure meat. While we all know that ascorbic acid or vitamin C is important, and vitamin C is important because it is necessary for the body's regular metabolic activity, and vitamin C can be mostly found in fruits and vegetables. Moving on, this survey was carried out using a food frequency questionnaire, which was particularly useful for describing or non-experimental descriptive design that seeks to describe the reality and obtain data. And a total of 6 participants were randomly selected from Fiji. And there has been previous research conducted based on nitrates and nitrites in Fiji in the year 2019. And then we have the aim for this research or this survey, and the aim of this survey was to find out the total amount of vitamin C, nitrates, and nitrites consumed by an average adult of 75 kg. The methodology. With the modern and advanced technology, this survey was carried out using an online questionnaire, which was known as the Food Frequency Questionnaire, for a month or for a period of 1 month. Through the use of social media platforms such as Facebook and Viber, the participants were able to successfully complete this survey. And in order to find the amount of vitamin C, nitrate and nitrite in a human diet in Fiji, the Food Frequency Questionnaire was used, and which was given to participants randomly throughout Fiji, mainly the Northern Division, the Central Division, and the Eastern Division. The data collected through online survey was then compiled using Microsoft Excel based on the serving size and average frequency. Then moving on, since this survey was carried online, if this survey is or this experiment is done in a lab, then there are some certain equipments that will be used. And let me take you through these equipments. In order to quantify the analytes during experimentation, different instruments can be used. And the most widely used is the high pressure liquid chromatography or the UV spectrophotometer. So you can see how a HPLC or high pressure liquid chromatography looks like. And then we have a schematic diagram of how or what happens when the solvent is placed and when the sample is injected into the HPLC. So what happens is the HPLC solvent is pumped through the high HPLC pump into the HPLC column, while the sample is injected through the injector, if you can see here. So once, depending on the stationary phase, the mobile phase moves down first, then followed by the stationary phase, which can be either polar or non-polar. Then this is detected on the detector, and then the data is obtained. Then looking at the UV spectrophotometer, on the left hand side you can see how a UV spectrophotometer looks like, and then on the right hand side you can see a schematic diagram of how the UV functions. So what happens is there is a light source and there is a monochromator which actually splits light into its different wavelengths, and then that passes through the sample, or that passes through the cuvette that contains the sample solution, and once the wavelengths pass through the sample solution, absorbance is obtained on the digital display. Moving on, let's take a quick look at the analytical procedure in an experiment. So what will happen is we'll have to get the laboratory samples, and first we have to homogenize the samples. After homogenization, then extraction and clarification process takes place. And this is basically for nitrates and nitrites, and similar process is used for vitamin C as well. So once the extraction and clarification process is done, since we know that it might contain some impurities, it has to be clarified. Then it goes into the centrifuge. After the centrifuge, the supernatant is filtered, and then we are able to obtain a test sample. And a test sample means a sample prepared from a lab sample and from which test portions will be taken. So after the test sample is prepared, further reagents are added to obtain a test portion. And this test portion is the quantity of material that is drawn from the test sample, which will be actually injected into the instruments such as HPLC or UV detector. Then moving on to our results. As we know that the survey was conducted online, and we had to obtain the dietary preference from our participants, and The dietary preference from our participant shows that only one participant out of 6 preferred both veg and non-veg, while one preferred vegetarian only, and the rest of the 4 preferred to have non-veg as their diet. Then participant locations. A total of 6 participants were selected, from which 1 was from the Western Division, 1 was from the Northern Division, and the rest were from the Central Division, and that is represented using a pie chart. The age group ranges from different age groups, right? Participants were selected from different age groups, and out of the 6 participants, 4 participants were female, while 1 was between the age of 20 to 25 years old, while the rest were between the age of 30 to 35. And out of the 6 participants, 2 were males respectively, and 1 was between the age of 25 to 30, and the other one was between the age of 40 to 45. So looking at our total out of the 6, we can see that 17% was 40 to 45 years old, 33% was 25 to 30 years old, and 50% were from the ages of 30 to 35 years old. Then looking at the total dietary intake of vitamin C from the different metrics that we had discussed earlier on, from the 9 different metrics. So we know from the food composition table, meat does not has any vitamin C. So you can see there is a flat mark here. And while fruits and vegetables and herbs has high amounts of vitamin C. And it can be seen that participant number 4 had the highest amount of vitamin C from herbs, while participant number 2 or participant number 1 had the highest amount of vitamin C from the vegetable category. So generally looking at the graph, we can say that participant number 4 obtained high amounts of vitamin C, while participant 3 and participant 4 and participant 5 had obtained very less amounts of vitamin C. Then moving on to the nitrate intake per person. So we can see that vegetables, as stated earlier on, has the highest amount of nitrates, nitrate, and we can say that participant number 3 had obtained the highest amount of nitrate from vegetables, and that was 400 milligrams per kg per day. And that was followed by participant number 1 and participant number 5, or participant number 6 rather. Sorry for that. Then moving on, nitrite intake per participants from different food items. We can see that nitrite is mostly from meat, as stated earlier on as well. And the other food metrics had very low amounts of nitrate, which was closer to 0.0, and that is why you can see a flat graph here, while only few cooked meals had nitrate content. Then moving on, our results. Looking at the statistics, vitamin C, nitrates and nitrates, we had obtained these information from our FFQ, and the analytes that was in milligrams per kg per day, we can see that vitamin C has a total intake of 300.95, while nitrite has 229.49 and nitrite has 2.26 milligrams per kg per day. Since it was just a small sample, we did not have to calculate the total nitrate. While the standard deviation calculated was 175.07 for vitamin C. For nitrate, it was 150.83 and nitrate was 1.39. And the average body weight of the 6 participants had 70 or was 75.83. So the estimated dietary intake based on 75 kg is 3.98 for vitamin C, 3.03 for nitrite, and 0.03 for nitrate. And the confidence interval was calculated at 75% limit, confidence limit. So we have 183.73% of 183.73 vitamin C, 158.29 for nitrate, and 1.46 for nitrite. Then moving on, according to the joint expert committee of food and agriculture, regulated that average dietary intake for a 75 kg body weight adult of nitrate is 3.70 mg per kg body weight per day, which was retained by the community at its meeting, and the average dietary intake for nitrate was set at 0.07 milligrams per kg per body weight per day. And this data was obtained from this journal. And while the average dietary intake of vitamin C from the food composition table gives us a 45 milligrams per 100 grams per day for an average adult from 90 to 65 years. Thus, the average for a 75 kg body weight would be 0.06 milligrams per kg body weight per day. Finally, it can be concluded, or after conducting this survey, it can be concluded that a person in Fiji with an average body weight of 75 kg has an average dietary intake of nitrate as 3.03 milligrams per kg per body weight per day, which is slightly lower than the established value, while nitrite intake was 0.03 milligrams per kg body weight per day, which was less than 0.07 milligrams per kg per body weight per day. Moreover, vitamin C intake was seen as to be greater, sorry about that, greater than the average value. And those are the references that has been used to compile these presentation. And finally, I would like to thank all the 6 participants for taking out their time and completing the survey based on the food frequency questionnaire. And in addition to this, I would also like to thank the course coordinator for providing continuous support throughout this project. Thank you.